I think it's true that good talks transport us, and so now I have the dubious distinction of trying to remember who I am and what I'm talking about after those two great talks in the second half. I'm going to talk about 7 realizations that awaken the entrepreneur in every student. Before I do, I'd like to talk about 2 pieces of feedback that were given to me when I assumed a faculty position at the School of the Museum of Fine Art, teaching a course called Creative Futures Business Essentials for Artists, and aimed at giving artists and students in general the tools that they would need to do what they love and make a good living at it. And that's modeled largely on what I do, which is escape the humdrum, try to do what I feel like, and start businesses. I have a laser cutting and 3D printing storefront in Central Square in Cambridge, and called Danger Awesome, and a boutique marketing, interactive, and filmmaking agency called Nimblebot. The 2 pieces of feedback that I got when I was just starting the 2 pieces of feedback that I got when I was just starting were from students who had just graduated art school or other types of school, saying, we need this. We need this, and we needed this earlier, secondary school or higher education, because I'm going into a job that I don't like, to pay rent, to steal a few hours at the end of the day for the things that I meant to be doing throughout school and thereafter. And I also heard kind of the complete opposite feedback from arts administrators and high art skeptics. A few people in my circle who were kind enough to say, what? You're teaching what to who? As if artists had some kind of handicap, the dramatic, the self-involved, the non-quantitative. But I think it's appropriate then that I'm talking about this at TEDx Williamsburg, because I think we know it's not true that entrepreneurship and art are counter-ethical. That in fact they are tightly intertwined, and that we know probably dozens of examples of people who have cut out niches for themselves, making money doing what they love in very clever ways, and using the neighborhood resources and support that is so ubiquitous around them. So the first of the 7 realizations is that you can be an artist without starving. That's one of our guest lecturers, Amanda Palmer. She and Neil Gaiman came to the class, and guest lecturers in our class model for the students that it can be done, and that it can be done through a long life trajectory that is fairly easy to emulate. In Amanda's case, she talked about starting as a motionless statue and receiving support from the community, $0.25 or $1 at a time, and then later depending on her supporters for everything from lodging to guest acts. And it inspired the students to go out and see where their support lies. I gave them an assignment to collect $1, 10 cents at a time from complete strangers, offering nothing in return. This is a crowdsourcing, Kickstarter-esque, mini Kickstarter experiment, and people were petrified at the idea of talking to strangers, and they came back with real relationships. They came back telling the others how they could complete successfully their assignments by making real connections, talking about the absurdity of the project, talking about the love and passion for their art, and then coming back 80, 90 cents at a time, and coming back with phone numbers and email addresses, and lo and behold, a list of supporters for when I gave them a challenge later on down the line. I'll go back for a second. It's also really important as part of learning how to grow and how to earn through passion that one learns how to fail. And everyone in the class was challenged with activities that they could not possibly meet. Things like raise a huge amount of money on Kickstarter or start selling in the 3rd week of class, things that it took them an entire semester to attain, but it's by learning to be comfortable with failure that so many of the students became comfortable with experimentation. And ultimately, what we learn from tech incubators like Techstars is that if you fail earlier, you experiment better, but you save money and you save time. You learn to come back and you come back stronger. You iterate and you progress. Learning occurs spontaneously through collaboration and experimentation. And I don't think you'd know that if you looked at the majority of schools in today's secondary and post-secondary educational system. I think for the most part we can agree that school actually distracts from experimentation and collaboration, and that when we do have experimentation, it's on someone else's terms, it's on an administrator's terms, it's part of a curricular requirement. But what we require as part of this class is that students establish their own brand, their own business, their own teams, their own collaborations on their own terms, and track progress in those endeavors throughout the entire semester. And it allowed people to do everything from sketch down a quick idea to develop a brand that became quite quickly selling t-shirts across the campus and later on across Boston, to PB and Cray, designer peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Professor, can I do a project that's not art, that's just something that's kind of been in my soul? I just want to get out, I want to do it, and I think people will love it? Absolutely. Can it make money? Yes. Can it inform the rest of your art? Absolutely. Can it be part of an incredible semester of learning and of failure and of success? Sure, it's easy. You need a daily practice to hone your passion, and I think this for artists and for almost anyone with a skill that they cherish is obvious. But again, school gets in the way of our learning. It's so often the case that even in an art school, we're given a mandate for how to succeed and on whose terms to succeed, but it's almost impossible for anyone to carve out the mandatory 2 days. I will paint for 2 hours every day. Sorry, the mandatory 2 hours. I will paint for 2 hours every day. I will sculpt for 2 hours every day. I will emote for 2 hours every day, for a social worker perhaps. I will introspect. I will pray. I will do whatever it is that is part of my practice because it is meaningful to me and the other things cannot get in the way. And realizing that this is number one is absolutely critical to becoming self-sufficient and being able to monetize one's work. We've all seen the 10,000 hours type of, you can become a genius in 10,000 hours. But it's along the course of that work that you learn about yourself, that you enjoy what you're doing, that you develop your passion not just into a monetizable prospect, but into a lifelong pursuit that brings you happiness. But you also need a daily practice to hone your business. And I think this is where so many people who are skilled miss out. If you just spent those same 2 hours a day, same 5 hours a day, same 10 hours a day, however much, depending on your local community, reaching out and engaging people through Twitter or whatever else to see who resonates with you, to account for your profits and losses, to figure out, yes, I sold 2 or 3 t-shirts today, but how many do I have to sell post-graduation to make rent when I don't have the support of student loans or parents or the job that I don't want to keep after I graduate? So all of these things are just a matter of practice. And so when we talk about entrepreneurship or skilled businessmen or skilled leaders or any of these other things that are so critical to becoming a sustainable enterprise, either as a person or as a collection of people, I think what we often miss out on is the sit down at a desk, open a blank sheet of paper, and begin business. Do business in that blank space. Go outside, have 1 day a week, go outside, don't work in the office, and begin your project of business. And of course, the trajectory is totally different for every single person. But the act of going outside and experimenting, we assigned the kids a pop-up gallery. I think kids, we assigned these young adults with a pop-up gallery. I'm like a few years older than them, so that's like really silly. We assigned them a pop-up gallery, and they complained. They said, I've done pop-up galleries, half of them about said, we've done pop-up galleries, there's not enough time, we don't know where it's going to be, insurance, it smells awful, what's going on? And within 2 weeks, there was a pop-up gallery. They had sourced 2,000 square feet of white carpet that was donated. They went back to their crowdsourcing $1, 10 cents at a time contacts and asked for more money, but gave them things, art in return. They got hundreds and actually thousands of dollars of support. They got publicity materials, and they sold art. They sold art at a pop-up gallery that was just a project in failing. I expected them to fail. I wanted them to fail. And they succeeded. And I think that's so often the case when we go out and present ourselves as businesses through new avenues and through experimental means. In this case, we're looking at Mike Falzone, who's a Twitter person, a YouTube personality for Waywire, and his job would not have existed a couple years ago. He went out and he made a point of honing his comedy, honing his music, and honing his business every single day, connecting with people on Twitter, finding support in his community, networking in ways that are non-traditional, and lo and behold, he's now able every single day to go online, and he describes his job as making fun of people on Twitter, which he thinks is the best job in the world. And he also has a large number of supporters who will follow him into his next endeavor. And as he says, when you want to get through a door, and there's something beyond that door that you want, if you have 100,000 people at your back, it's going to be much easier to get through, even if someone just finds the key under the mat. If you take a stand, your passion can provide the lion's share of your income. And these are some cool graphs. I really was totally astonished and very proud to see the quantitative approach that so many of these artists took to their entrepreneurship, just as a matter of course. These are people, I think, who would not have imagined themselves looking at dopeness in comparison to how much money they're making and how much time they're spending on a given job. And so in the pursuit of what is my passion, Melanie looked at, okay, where am I making money between bookmaking and consulting and all of these other artistic endeavors? What am I really psyched about, and what am I spending the most time on? And how can I optimize certain things within that set of dimensions? And how can I take the things that are not yet optimized but I really enjoy and increase my earnings there based on the successes I've had in other spaces? So too, Eileen Wang really looked at and conducted market testing on her Etsy sales for soft sculpture. And here are sculptures that her mom said something like aren't very good or aren't very functional as clothing. And it was, and it's very common for artists to face that kind of scrutiny from parents who don't get it yet. And all of a sudden you do a push on Facebook. You see people coming because you're driving them. And you see them coming and you see them buying. And it's just, again, it's a one-step process of showing up and trying new avenues for dissemination, trying new avenues for experimentation, and it's not surprising then that artists who are so experimental, so creative, and very often great critical thinkers can solve their way through good business practices and sustainable enterprises. She and one of the other students also did a huge amount of market testing, which just materialized out of nowhere, asking tons of people for input on the art, on the ways in which they were disseminating, on what people would like to see next. And that's something that I think even established businesses aren't often good at. And here we have artists not only supporting their businesses, but improving their product and arguably improving their art. This is Johnny Cupcakes here. Thinking small means winning quickly. Johnny Earl of Johnny Cupcakes started very small. He talks about not being able to focus on much in school until he found what he loved, and then he really focused with singular passion. And he did start small, and now he's quite big, but that's almost irrelevant. For all of these students taking the math of being able to sustain oneself as a full-time artist and really looking it in the eye is an incredibly enlightening experience that I don't think most students actually undertake in school or maybe ever. If I'm selling shirts for $10 and the profit's $8 and I'm spending $1,400 on rent, food, transportation, insurance, and these other things, how many shirts do I have to sell per month in order to be profitable? It's a lot of shirts. Turns out you have to get good at other things, merchandising and upselling and inbound marketing and all kinds of other things that crop up naturally when you really have to make your passion profitable. And they do. Those things pop up, and the students have been extremely successful in doing what they love, and they're not breaking even yet, but they're in the first 3 months, in this spring semester, these students are in the first 3 months of the rest of their lives as profitable full-time artists. And these are kids who came in hoping to learn how to make a pitch or fill out an Excel sheet or fill out a tax document, not ever expecting to be full-time artists forever. And it's worth mentioning here that many of these students hear from their professors in art, in humanities, in PhD programs all over the world, it's a pyramid scheme and there's no place for you in it. There's not enough spots at the top for a PhD in Islamic studies to land a teaching job at a top university. And there's not enough spots for everyone to be Damien Hirst or anything else like that. And when your teachers are reminding you of that every day and you come into a class and you're able to convert that cynicism into experimental behavior, I think it's a huge coup against at least the negative feedback that I was talking about at the beginning of the class. Lastly, mentorship in America is disappearing, and you can bring it back. You as students, you as mentors, you as community members, so much of this talk is about the latent energy that comes out of community to support, to buy, to converse, and to be with arts and artists and their art. In the same way, I think that all of us can take a stand for mentorship, not just academic advising and not just passing relationship advice, but a real long-term interest in the people in our field whom we resonate with, and an interest in their growth professionally, socially, spiritually. We're missing that. I don't remember a time when that happened, and I don't think my parents' generation remembers much of that happening in their professional development either. And it is high time, I think, given how much mentorship is orbiting this class, is orbiting our internship program at Danger Awesome or Nimblebot, that we take something as intuitively obvious and inherently successful as mentoring one another to its scalable conclusion in the education system and in our communities. That's all. There's 7 realizations that I think awaken entrepreneurs in my class, in the arts, and in a variety of disciplines. And I hope that you can all take your passions to the next level in your own lives, sustainably, to make money and to live the life that you'd always hoped for.